Join us on Patreon and become part of our journey to uncover history's untold stories. Your support helps us create in-depth content, bring hidden narratives to life, and keep history alive for everyone.
There are cities so old their names echo like whispers from ancient tongues. Cities that do not merely exist in history books, but pulse beneath the soil, within the manuscripts, through bloodlines, and in the breath of descendants scattered by time. Timbuktu is such a city. Mentioned in passing by Arab traders, feared and admired by European explorers, and romanticized by storytellers as a golden city on the edge of the Sahara, Timbuktu has long been a symbol of mystery. But hidden deep within its crumbling mud brick libraries and ancient corridors lies a story rarely spoken, one that connects the descendants of ancient Hebrew Israelites with the once glorious intellectual capital of West Africa. Timbuktu, located in present-day Mali, was more than a mirage city whispered about in European salons. Between the 13th and 16th centuries, it stood as one of the world's greatest centers of learning, law, science, and religion. While many know it as an Islamic city of scholarship, with mosques like Jingaribur built by architects from Andalusia and vast collections of Islamic texts, fewer are aware of the centuries-long presence of Hebrew communities that lived, studied, and quietly flourished within its sand-colored walls. Their history has been buried, not by accident, but by the sands of colonial distortion, racial erasure, and theological politics. To understand how Hebrews came to Timbuktu, one must turn the pages back not just to West Africa, but to the diasporic journeys of the Israelites after the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 CE by the Romans. Many Hebrew families scattered throughout the Middle East and North Africa. Over centuries, these communities traveled along trade routes, particularly through Egypt, Sudan, and into the Sahel. By the time Islam spread through North Africa in the 7th and 8th centuries, Jewish and Hebrew communities were already active participants in trade, agriculture, metallurgy, and scholarship in African kingdoms like Ghana, Mali, and Songhai. Many historians, including Dr. Rudolph Windsor and John G. Jackson, assert that Black Hebrew communities were not simply visitors, but deeply rooted African peoples whose identity had long included Israelite traditions. The Empire of Mali, founded in the early 13th century, offered refuge to scholars, merchants, and scribes of many faiths. Musa Musa, its most famous ruler, is best remembered for his legendary Hajj to Mecca in 1324 and his patronage of Islamic scholars. But beneath the layers of Islamic scholarship were multiple knowledge traditions, including those of Hebrew scribes. Timbuktu, as a cosmopolitan city, allowed relative religious tolerance for centuries. It is during this time that Hebrew-speaking communities began to leave more permanent traces. These traces came in the form of manuscripts, some written in Hebrew, others in Judeo-Arabic, and still more in local African languages but influenced by Hebraic syntax and philosophy. Hidden in the family libraries of Timbuktu were scrolls and books that contained not only Torah commentaries and psalms, but also histories of the Exodus, local genealogies tracing back to the tribes of Judah and Levi, and encoded rituals tied to Hebrew customs such as circumcision, Sabbath-keeping, and dietary laws. Many of these texts were concealed, especially after the arrival of European colonial authorities and French Christian missionaries in the 19th century, who often confiscated or destroyed documents that contradicted their racial narratives or revealed non-European traditions of literacy and spiritual authority. Perhaps the most powerful evidence of the Hebrew presence in Timbuktu lies not only in written texts, but in the oral histories of the local people. Griots, West African oral historians, have passed down tales of people of the scroll who dressed distinctively, spoke ancient tongues, and practiced rites different from both Christians and Muslims. Some Songhai and Fulani clans still claim descent from Hebrew tribes. In their customs, linguistic patterns, and clan names, scholars such as Dr. Yosef Benjocanan and Ivan van Sertima have identified remnants of Israelite heritage. When Timbuktu came under the dominion of the Songhai Empire in the 15th century, religious dynamics shifted. The Songhai leadership embraced Islam but continued to accommodate other traditions for a time. However, the Moroccan invasion in 1591, backed by the Ottoman Turks, ushered in an era of repression. Hebrew scholars and scribes became targets, and many went underground. Families hid their sacred scrolls in walls, underground chambers, or fled with them to remote villages along the Niger River. Some migrated further south into what is now Nigeria, Ghana, and Cameroon, carrying their identity and sacred knowledge with them. French colonialism delivered a devastating blow. As France took over West Africa in the late 19th century, European scholars plundered manuscripts, dismissed African scholarly traditions as inferior, and systematically erased evidence that Black Africans had deep intellectual ties to the ancient world. While thousands of Islamic texts were cataloged and preserved in European libraries, many Hebrew and non-Arabic African works were ignored, mislabeled, or destroyed. Despite this, secret libraries persisted in families such as the Kadi family of Timbuktu, who were descendants of Sephardic Jews and Black Moors expelled from Spain in the 15th century. Their collection, now known as the Fondo Kadi Library, contains documents with Hebrew references, Judeo-Arabic script, and genealogies linking them to Iberian and African Jewish roots. Recent digitization efforts have revealed some of these texts to the wider world. In collaboration with Malian scholars and international archivists, previously hidden scrolls have emerged showing rituals, calendrical systems, and scriptural commentaries that align with Hebraic traditions. Some manuscripts even provide details of Hebrew-African religious syncretism, blending Torah with indigenous cosmology in ways that defy easy categorization but testify to a rich, living faith. There is a deeper meaning in this recovery. The rediscovery of Hebrew traditions in Timbuktu challenges both Eurocentric narratives of civilization and modern assumptions about African identity. It resurrects the memory of Black Israelites not as victims or anomalies, but as intellectual architects, scribes of wisdom, and keepers of spiritual memory. It questions the rigidity of religious borders and reaffirms that identity, particularly in Africa, is not singular, but woven through centuries of migration, revelation, and resilience. This history also intersects with experiences of Black communities in the Americas and the Caribbean who have long claimed Israelite heritage. Movements such as the Hebrew Israelites of Harlem, the Rastafarians of Jamaica, and the Limba of Southern Africa find their spiritual lineage echoed in Timbuktu's hidden scrolls. These parallels have sparked new research into the transatlantic Hebrew diaspora and its links to African origins long denied by colonial scholarship. While Timbuktu remains threatened by political instability and climate change, its legacy endures. Beneath its sun-baked rooftops and among the Saharan winds lies a treasure still unfolding, a legacy of Black Hebrews who prayed under African skies, wrote with African hands, and preserved divine stories in African tongues. Their scrolls, long hidden, now speak once more to a world ready to listen.